Hello, beautiful MILFs, and welcome back to another episode of the MILFs Who Pivot podcast, where the term MILF is short for Money Making Independent Lady Friends. I'm your host, Bianca Terry, and each week I'll either be interviewing or reading about amazing women who have pivoted in life to pursue their wildest dreams and wealth from a MILF's perspective. This podcast aims to motivate and encourage other MILFs to boldly explore uncharted paths towards a fresh and fabulous leveled up life. Michelle Steiner is a child educator and active advocate for individuals with disabilities. She has what is referred to as an invisible disability and makes it her mission to educate and uplift others who may face similar challenges through her blog, Michelle's Mission. Michelle has articles published on the Mighty, Nonverbal Learning Project, Dyscalculia blog, The Reluctant Spoonie, Calopina Collective, Imagine the World as One magazine, and Word Gathering. Her photographs have been featured in publications including Word Gathering, Independent, and Work Ready. In her free time, Michelle enjoys photographing flowers, traveling, and spending time with her husband and 2 cats. Michelle believes that life is too short to let a disability get in the way of traveling, working, and enjoying life. Let's welcome our guest. Hello, Michelle, and welcome to the show.
Oh, hi, Bianca. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Such a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So let's jump right into it. We got a lot to talk about. I want to
Mhm.
talk about before you started your wonderful blog. I've been reading those posts. I think they're great. Tell me about life after you got diagnosed. I read that you got diagnosed with your disability early in childhood by a teacher. And so, what was that like? About how old were you? And what was that like, your journey through high school? And then we'll get into your education after that.
Mhm. Sure. I was diagnosed when I was very young. I was diagnosed right in kindergarten. I can remember just really struggling in school. I had a lot of difficulty with math. Anything math related was really hard for me. I also struggled with my fine motor skills, hand coordination, and my teacher could see that something was going on, so she recommended that I get tested for having a learning disability. And sure enough, I have one. They didn't have a specific diagnosis of dyscalculia at that point, but they knew I was not going to be a mathematician when I was 5 or 6. We understood that pretty early on. Uh, I had to repeat kindergarten the following year. And that was a real struggle for me at the new school, too. It was really hard because I just wanted to learn like all my other peers did. I wanted to be accepted. And I just really had a hard time doing all of that. And I began to receive specialty instruction in all areas. And it was frustrating for me. But luckily, a lot of that started to work. And I was put in regular ed classes and for reading because they found out I could read really well. And reading and writing were always something that was the first thing they found out I was really good at. Because before that point, I thought I wasn't good at anything because anything I tried to do, I just really struggled or I failed at. And my dad saw a story that I wrote about a dinosaur when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade and really encouraged me and said, "This is really good." And that just opened up a world for me because I was also bullied in school starting very young because I had a disability and it made me stick out and went to a very small school district. So it wasn't like I could hide or blend in. Everybody knew I went to learning support and I wasn't one of them. Uh, School got a lot easier for me academically as I went throughout the years. I was in all regular ed classes except for math and a resource room. And my grades were really good. I was making honor roll. I was really finding what I was good at. And socially, it got a lot harder for me. I had a lot of people, the groups became more defined. It wasn't just, well, you're not my friend anymore, or you're not invited to my birthday party, or I don't want to play with you on the playground. It became really amplified with a lot of just bullying and being mean. And I just didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. I did find a group that was outside of my school district. There was a writing group, or they also had other art forms. And I had kids that I didn't go to school with, which was really nice because I could shed the reputation that followed me ever since kindergarten as being that outcast. And then eventually, when I stopped hanging out with them, I found an adult writing group with people a couple years older than I was. And 20 some years later, we still meet once a month to talk about our writing, and we're in each other's lives. And it's just one of those amazing things because they were the people in that group were really encouraging me. You should write about having a learning disability. And I said, oh no, that's too personal. I don't want to go into that. But
Mhm.
when years later, when I finally took that advice, after writing all the bad poetry and some other things I wouldn't want to read today, when I finally wrote about my struggle to unlock a door because of my limited hand dexterity, that is when I was just, I had this healing. It was the most healing thing that I've ever done. And I had a
You
great
know,
response. Yeah.
Michelle, let me stop you there before we get into that. I want
Yeah.
to go back just a little bit. You
Sure.
mentioned dyscalculia. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Okay. So I remember when we had our original scheduled recording before you rescheduled, that was the first time I'd heard of that. And I wanted to tell you, I think soon after that evening of the first date that we have scheduled, I ran into someone, or I met someone who wrote a children's book about dyscalculia. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So I'm in a group with authors, and I saw that, and I wanted to tell you that because I
It's
know you write about it.
awesome.
And yeah, yeah.
Ah, that is great.
So fast forward to your moment of healing. Of roughly how old were you? Do you recall?
I had to
Mm.
be in my one of the very moments before that was whenever I got my bachelor's degree. That was whenever, despite being told I couldn't do it, that was when I was in my 30s. And then when I finally got that article published and I was in my 40s, that
Oh
like
my
early
goodness.
40s, that is when a lot of that healing also took place too. I mean, but I had a lot in my 30s after I went through going back to school. But when I got that published and I wasn't afraid about talking about having a disability, that just healed a lot of things. It gave me that voice.
Yeah. So your college education, I read that, a teacher told you, or maybe it was more than one teacher, that that wouldn't be possible for you to attend school and graduate. And why did they say that? And
Well, I've struggled with math. Even basic math
okay.
is really difficult for me. And I never made it outside of learning support math. We tried putting me in a basic class in ninth grade, and it just didn't work out for me. And I just even struggled in that. Even in learning support, it was a real struggle for me with that. And we knew the math was going to be a factor when I went to college. And I still was worried about my other classes too, because I know it's going to get harder for me. And they suggested the learning support teachers suggested a trade school, but nothing there interested me. And this is really something because if I would have taken their advice, I would have struggled more trying to learn how to do somebody's hair, or I think they wanted me to do protective services. And I'm thinking I'm not even able to drive with my disability, so I don't know how that would have worked out. And it just didn't seem like the right path for me. So I was connected with an agency called Office for Vocational Rehabilitation, and they pay for job training, they pay for schooling, they pay for all your testing. And if you have a qualifying disability, you can get accommodations and they'll pay for you to go to school. And I've never been a great test taker. And when I had to get tested for having a learning disability all over again, it wasn't a surprise to me that my scores were really low. And the psychiatrist who evaluated me said, well, you're most likely not going to go beyond community college. And later on, they tested me after college, and
Mhm.
they were like, I was going in because I needed to get transportation and I had to show that I had a disability. And they put, well, what is your dream job? And I put down, oh, yeah, I want to write, I want to do news reports. And they said, well, she says she wants to do that, but that's going to be beyond her capabilities. And
Oh no.
And that is when they found out I had limited hand dexterity. That made a lot of sense. But the initial testing, when they said I wouldn't be able to go past community college, that was really heartbreaking for me, especially in the beginning. And I can remember just feeling discouraged. And then I go to community college and I have even more discrimination. I had peers that were telling me that using disability accommodations was cheating. I had a professor who told me that I was going to have limited job choices when I graduated. And I even asked to use the calculator. And it was really embarrassing because it was in front of the class. And that's when I soon learned, okay, that those things are best to be asked in private. But she said, oh no, we use our brains in this class. And I didn't want that stigma attached to me. So I didn't use them. And that was a big mistake. My grades really dropped because I wasn't using them. And finally, I was in a science class, and the professor said, why don't we at least get you extended test time? I did that. I passed her class. I did not do well in it, but I passed it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to pass my other classes as well. I got an associate's degree in early childhood education. I moved out on my own, and life was good for a while. And but I always wanted more for myself. And be careful what you wish for, because I had to move back in with my mom and my dad because of financial reasons. And it was that time I thought, I'm going to give university a try. I found the program that had the least amount of math and science possible. I had a program that interested me, and they had disability accommodations. And I was in my late 20s by that point, and I thought, I'm going to use them. I'm going to use these services. And I didn't know if I could do it, but I had a much better time. My grades improved dramatically, and I advocated for myself, and I used all of the services that they offered that I needed. And I did really well. I made Dean's List for a semester, and I was able to graduate with a bachelor's degree in community programming for Americans with disabilities.
Oh my goodness. I love that story. I
You.
want to go back to the
Mhm.
people telling you what you could and could not do. Oh, you won't be able to do this because of that. Oh, you won't be. I mean, what if you had listened to them? I think it is horrible for other people to just blatantly limit someone in that way, no
Right.
matter what they believe, no matter what the situation looks like. You believed in yourself, and then you advocated for yourself, and you
Mhm.
finished. So, what a wonderful testimony. Congratulations.
Thank you so
So,
much.
yeah, I wish you could have gone back and, called them or written them and say, hey, guess what? I graduated. Here's my degree.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Here is the degree. And at one point, I did get to go back, and the disability didn't go away, and they still were trying to limit what I could do. Then, yeah, in some ways, I'd love to go back with some articles and be like, okay, you told me I couldn't write these articles, like you told me I couldn't do this, and I was able to do that. But I think it's really important that people understand I'm able to do it because I had an accommodation. I'm able to do it because I found a way to do it. My disability has not gone away. It won't go away, but I just have to find different ways to do things.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
And you should be able to do that. But had you listened to them
Yeah.
and not advocated for yourself or believed in yourself,
Yeah.
accommodations go out the window.
Yeah,
Wouldn't matter.
exactly. Right, right. If I would have listened to that, and I was a really negative person for a great deal, many years, I was a very negative person. I really was scared. I worried about the future, how I was going to handle things. I wasn't very happy with myself, and I thought the only way I could be complete and healed is if I get rid of this disability.
Mhm.
And that turned out to not be something that was true for me. What really helped me to do that has been using what works, and also empowering myself with things I can do. I
Mhm.
can write, I love to read, and I love to take pictures. And if I focus on those things, I'm a lot happier. But if I focus on what I can't do and what I don't have, then I'm not a happy person. So I just choose to engage in things I love to do and I'm good at.
Mhm. That's awesome. I love to hear that. I also read that you refer to your disability as a bag that you carry around, and I think that is such a
Mhm.
great metaphor. So I'm wondering, over the years, has the size of the bag decreased? As you've accomplished things throughout life, as you found things that you're really good at, things that you excel at, things that you love to do.
It has. It really has. Or else I've learned how to carry a lot of that, and I've learned to let go of certain things. Sometimes I've had to take that bag and I've had to clean it out. I've had to look at that and say, okay, this doesn't serve me anymore. This idea doesn't serve me. And I have to throw that idea out. Or I have to go back with something that somebody might have said to me. Or even life isn't perfect. Sometimes there are
Hmm.
people that mean well and they may be trying to help, but they say something, or I overhear somebody say something that's just not a helpful thought to me with having that. And I just have to look at that and say, all right, do I want to carry this in my bag and make this really heavy, or do I just want to let it go and move on? So I've learned how to handle some of the weight of it, but yeah, it has gotten a lot lighter because I talk about it, and that's what gives me that voice is when
Hmm.
I write about it and I get that chance to speak. I think that helps to lighten the load of having one.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's fast forward to your blog you were getting ready to get into. I just want to know, when did you get the idea for the blog? Was it when you were in the writing group?
I
Because I
got
know
the
it's a
idea.
source of healing for you.
Right. I got the idea for the blog during COVID when everything was shutting down. I was lucky to get a grant and I was home and I was writing more. And I thought, why don't I start a blog? Why don't I start just talking about this? And I did have some friends before COVID that were saying, hey, maybe that would be a good idea to start a blog. I had some people that thought, well, maybe you can write about your cats or something like that. And I love them, but I wanted to incorporate just having a disability. And I wanted to have a little store that could show also uh, the photography that I do as well.
Hmm. And so tell me about the photography. You like to walk and take pictures of
Yes,
of what?
flowers and other things in nature. I'm not able to drive, so what really makes it nice is I get to notice details that other people will miss. I'll be in the car with my husband and I'll say, Babe, did you see that? And he's like, No, I'm focused on the road. He is getting a little bit better about it. And when I don't have a ride somewhere, I can literally stop and smell the roses. And
Hmm.
that gives me that opportunity. And rather than feeling sad about it, I get to take a picture of a flower and I get to show details that other people might miss. And people have commented that I do that. And that is something, if I was driving, that would be a shot that I would miss. That would be something that I would just be so focused on the road as I should be. But that gives me that opportunity to do that. So I sell mainly prints now, but I've had journals in the past too, notebooks.
That's lovely. That's actually one of my favorite things to do, walk and take pictures of flowers.
Yep.
Flowers are
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. They're healing to look at, to smell. I love
Yes.
everything about them. Um, and I saw your prints. They're lovely. So, and you're selling them on your blog, by the way,
Yes, I
for
am.
our listeners. So what size are they? And if someone purchases them, what format are they in? Or what medium?
They are in a digital. I do go and print them off. If somebody does purchase them, I can make them into any size, but mainly I do 8x10s, but I can make them smaller or larger if somebody would like that. And they're in a print, or I can also frame them too for another price, but mostly I just use some prints and they're printed off.
Nice. And are these local flowers or do you photograph on your travels?
Some are on my travels, and some of them are just local flowers that I find in my neighborhood or sometimes some gardens that we might go to and just be able to find some places that, yeah, but sometimes it's just finding those details when I'm on a walk. Like I'm
Yeah.
going to the gym or I'm going to the store to pick up something. And I see this flower and I get the chance to take that shot, or I'll see a bee on the flower, or sometimes I even get lucky and we see butterflies and I get that chance to take that picture of them.
Hmm. They are pretty. I love it. I was looking at some of them like, are these flowers in Pennsylvania? They look
Some of
exotic.
them are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in addition to, oh, I wanted to, because when I was thinking about the flowers, I was thinking about your travels. I read that you really like to travel with your husband. And I also read that he is a great source of support for you. He's been there for you throughout many of your challenges. So when did
Yes.
you find love? And where do you guys travel together? What's some of your favorite places?
Sure. I found it when I least expected it. I was in some very pretty broken relationships before that, and I just prayed. I said, God, do not send me anybody until it's the right person. And I was volunteering at an art center, and he was coming in to play guitar that night. And it turns out we had mutual friends, and that we were in the same place at other times after we were talking, and we didn't even realize it. So the thing that was really cool was uh, we got to know each other. We got to be really good friends over the summer. And then he asked me out, and yeah, the rest is history. And I just encourage, yeah. And it just, we couldn't have planned it.
Yeah, that's so sweet. I love it. And so, where do you guys travel together? What's some of your favorite
So,
places?
well, we definitely like Phipps Conservancy in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of great gardens and museums we like to go to. We might just go somewhere and I'll look up different museums or different gardens. I'm the one that usually overpacks, and I'm also the one that also overplans a little bit. And then my husband will usually get stuff out of my bag. And also, when we go on our trips, we'll pick the top couple things that we want to do, and then the other ones we just save that for later. We've gone to Chicago, where they have some beautiful gardens too, and their zoo is really nice. That was another one. New York is great. The Brooklyn Botanical Garden was another favorite one of ours. Niagara Falls. Just some of those are our trips that we love to take.
Oh, I haven't been to Niagara Falls yet. It's definitely on my list. I love
Yeah,
to
it's
travel. And I love talking to my guests who love to travel because I think travel is such an eye-opening and
yep,
spirit-opening experience. So it's wonderful you
definitely.
get to do that with someone you love. I think that's so sweet. And actually, I think this is a great time for us to move into the strawberry round, where I'll ask you 5 questions and you keep your answers short and sweet. Are you
Sure,
ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Name a book that has inspired you tremendously.
Coloring outside the or learning outside the lines by Jonathan Mooney, because he talks a lot about having a learning disability and just how he has learned, and I can relate to a lot of the experiences.
Mm. What's a software tool or an app you can't live without, either personal or professional use?
My Fitbit is one of them. I cannot tell time on an analog clock, so I cannot live without that.
Ah, the great Fitbit. It used to be my
Yes.
best friend. I need to
Uh-huh.
look into getting a new one. Yeah, I love a Fitbit.
Yep.
Name someone you'd love to have lunch with and why.
I would love to have lunch. Let me think here. I might with just somebody like one of my grandparents that had passed. I haven't seen them in a long time, and I'd love to just show them some of the things that I'm doing now.
That is so sweet. I'm hearing a lot of people say that. Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a life motto or quote that you live by?
Keep your face to the sun, and the shadows will disappear.
Huh. Is that yours?
No, that was a Helen Keller quote. Something with "keep your
Wow.
face to the sun."
Mhm.
Yeah,
I like that. Last one is, what is your top self-care ritual?
I love to work out. That is one of my favorite things to do, and that just helps to keep me focused. And it's great for just relieving stress and just getting that focus in for the day. That is one
Ah,
of my that's my top one. And then reading and writing, of course, too,
reading,
because
writing.
they both give. Yeah,
Absolutely. Do you have any final words for our listeners to take as encouragement or advice to pivot and live life intentionally?
I would just tell people that success doesn't always come in the package that you expect, but sometimes it comes in something better.
Ah, excellent. Excellent final words. Well, Michelle, I'd like to thank you so much for participating in the podcast today. It was a pleasure having you on and getting to know you and hearing your story. I
Thank you
wish
so
you
much.
nothing but the best in the future in all of your endeavors.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. And if any of our listeners are interested in getting to know you more or learning about your blog, any links that you share with me, I'll be sure to post them in the show notes.
Yes, that'd be wonderful.
All right. Take care, Michelle.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Thanks. Bye bye. Thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of the MILFs Who Pivot podcast. Please take a minute to leave a review and don't forget to follow the show, download the episodes, and share with the other MILFs in your life. Listen in on any of the major platforms, including Apple and Spotify, or watch our videos on YouTube. You can join the community on Facebook and Instagram at MILFs Who Pivot Podcast.